I spun round and just grabbed one part of him, and then I realised that we were doing this way too soon, and I basically like nearly grabbed his crotch as I was like completely underneath him. And that's just wrestling. You grab things you shouldn't. Hi, I'm Florence Pugh, and these are my film firsts with BAFTA. I remember the first films that I was totally in love with, and that was Strictly Ballroom. It was Charlie's Angels with Drew Barrymore, and it was probably Moulin Rouge. All of those ones. Yeah. I actually told that to him the other night. We were partying at the BAFTA after parties, and I went straight up to him and I was like, "Hey, I adored your stuff when I was a child and an adult, and I even used to practice the Scott knee slide with my brother across our floors when we were younger." And I just needed to tell him that. And he was like, "You and your brother?" And I go, "Yeah, my brother is actually here." And he was like, "I'd love to meet your brother." And so I took Baz Luhrmann over to my brother, and I was like, "Yep, there you go. Moment of the night made." Probably shouldn't have watched Belle Epoque at a young age. I don't know. I think I was exposed to watching foreign films that involved maybe two grown-up love scenes, but I just appreciated it. I think I've always grown up appreciating especially French movies and Italian movies and Spanish movies because of, I suppose, the way that they show women. I remember in Dirty Dancing when Baby is going up the stairs and she's doing all the dance moves, and I always thought that I wanted to do that dancing, do all of the lifting in the water. Maybe I just fancied Patrick Swayze though, so I don't know. My first ever audition was The Falling, and that was a complete fluke, and no one should ever learn their lesson that way. And they were doing a leaflet audition from Oxford to London, and all the schools in the areas had to send in a tape. They basically just needed loads of girls that kind of didn't have like their hair dyed or their nails done. They just needed girls that had individual faces. And I remember everybody for months was like, "Have you done the tape?" "I've done the tape. I've handed it in. I've heard it's first come, first serve." And I didn't do the tape because my brother was in the industry and I knew that that's not how tapes work. My mum said, "Had I done the tape?" And I was like, "What? Even you know that that's not how auditions happen?" And she goes, "No, you're not gonna get it, but it's practice." So I did it, and then I ended up receiving an email on Monday morning, and it was like mind-blowing. First day on the set of The Falling was the scene where all of the girls are on the lake bank, and we're all looking up at the tree, and our art teacher, Morford Clark, is teaching us how to look at the beauty of the tree and draw it. And I only had one line, and I'd practiced it for months and months and months, and I start the scene and I completely forgot it, and the take went on for like a minute and a half, and then they said, "Okay, shall we go again?" I was just so scared. I was so nervous that I was going to get fired or that they were going to find someone else. Let's meet underneath it every day, the same year for the rest of our lives. Maybe that's not perfect, but it was basically something like that. First mistake that I made. I make mistakes every single day. I make mistakes on every single set that I'm on. I also make a lot of good decisions, and I think that's the whole point of it, is that you're in a room full of people that thrive on the fact that the plan changes, and sometimes the best line reads that come out, or the best scenes that come out at the end of the day, or when you have 10 seconds or 10 minutes left to shoot this one thing, are because there was a mistake at the beginning of the day. My first day of stunt training was the first real day that I met Jack Loudon. I did my audition with him, and we had our stunts together because obviously we were learning how to wrestle together all together. And we ended up getting ahead of ourselves, and we were trained to do this move where I would basically have my head like in between his legs and he would be spinning me round. And I spun round and just grabbed one part of him, and then I realised that we were doing this way too soon, and I basically like nearly grabbed his crotch as I was like completely underneath him. And that's just wrestling. You grab things you shouldn't. My first meeting with Greta Gerwig was at Amy Pascal's house, and then I remember Greta being like, "So the thing is, so when you do Amy, and you know, when Timmy does," and I was just sat there and I literally was trying to compute and remember the sentence that she said and still listen to what she was saying, but also realising that, oh fucking God, she just gave me the role. So my conversation with Marvel, I think we'd just been trying to figure out what if we were going to do something, when we were going to do something. When Black Widow came up with Kate Shortland and Scarlett, I couldn't quite believe that this match was so perfect. Like anything that means something and like anything that's important, it takes a long time, and I was just very grateful to be on board a project like that. My experience as a producer for A Good Person was quite possibly the most freeing and rewarding and unbelievably educational. I think it's something that I've maybe accidentally, naturally been doing on things before. And my brain is always going and going and going and thinking how it could be better. And so I think when I was doing it on A Good Person, I kind of realised that, oh, this is an itch that I've been trying to scratch for a really long time. And I had a wonderful freedom on set, and of course my relationship with all of the crew was unbelievably easy because everybody completely respected and looked up to Zach. And I think that tone on a movie is completely left up to the director. My first day acting opposite Morgan Freeman was the scene where he holds his hand out in the church when I see him for the first time in the AA meeting. I always got worried when I was younger that if you work with like a mega star, does it mean you're going to be so transfixed by them that you're going to forget to act, or that you're not going to be able to like give back what they're giving you? And I think the coolest thing about working with amazing actors is that it's just easy, and anything that you do, even if you make a mistake, they catch you. It was like playing tennis with someone that you'd been training with, you know, and you've never met them before.